What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right, who's not a professional fighter? What happens?
They do it for real. Tank is highly capable of taking Jake Paul out. So the exhibitions that I like to see are ones that either I can mythically look at and say, wow, well, if he would have did that back when he was 10 years younger or 8 years or 12 years ago, he would have beat him. You understand me? Because we know boxing.
Which if he hits you because he's so accurate, he's gonna drop you or could put you to sleep. But like not necessarily power punch. Like Edwin De Los Santos is a hard hitter. He would even have a hard time with rollies. I'm not even kidding.
Boxing legends believe Gervonta Davis will destroy Jake Paul in just 3 rounds. Gareth A. Davis mentioned that during the press conference and face-off, Gervonta stayed calm and didn't react much to Jake's jokes about his height. He looked a bit quiet, maybe even unsure, but Gareth believes that once the fight starts, Tank will unleash his power and fast combos to completely shut Jake down.
Went about the presser.
He reminded me of a northern football fan being dragged to a shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon rather than being allowed to go to his favourite Liverpool seat. You'll relate to that, won't you? It was almost like he'd been shackled and dragged there against his will. Even when they faced off, it was as if Jake Paul had a bad smell about him or something. He didn't want to get near Jake Paul. He didn't want to. I'm just going to plug this in as well. I just realised it's not plugged in. It was almost as if he didn't want to indulge anyone at all. Like he'd signed up against his will, and then like he'd been signed up against his will. The agents and his manager and his handler had dragged him there without briefing him on what was going on and where it would be and what time it would take place. And there was this oaf in his mind standing there in front of him, this big oaf who kept posturing, and it just didn't do anything to him. I wondered at one point whether he was going to burst out with a combination of punches or something and just drop Jake Paul, who was being, measuring him up and going down to his height, and it was all very peculiar in my view. Like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
Ryan Garcia didn't hide his anger about the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight, calling it an insult to boxing. He said the size and weight difference make the fight unfair and more about getting views than real competition. According to Ryan, boxing should be about skill, respect, and legacy, not social media stunts. Seeing a smaller fighter like Gervonta face a naturally bigger opponent like Jake just feels wrong to him. He believes this fight sends a bad message to young fighters, showing that hype and money matter more than discipline and honor. For Ryan, this isn't entertainment. It's disrespect to the sport he loves.
Mainly Jake's in. We're not falling for the Disney Channel bit no more. We're not falling for you're not a fighter no more. We're not falling for that. You're ranked as a cruiserweight and you're out here trying to fight a lightweight. And then on top of it, you were just talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. That doesn't make no sense. And, I just felt like it was a disgrace to boxing and kind of it was not a good move by Jake Paul. I understand people saying, Gervonta got to go get his money, blah, blah, blah. But, like, we're not talking about that shit. We're talking about the sport, bro. We're not talking about, you got to get that money, bro. Yeah, but everybody's open to criticism. That's the whole point of this media shit. Right. That's why they talk about basketball players. They don't talk about, LeBron's making too much. Like, nobody cares, bro. If LeBron's missing the shot, he's missing the fucking shot. So at the end of the day, bro, I just thought it was a disgrace to the sport. Because on one end, you got the casuals, right? The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Yeah. And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter. Yeah. And to me, that's just it's tricking the public, and it's kind of bullshit, bro, at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if Gervonta was Jake Paul's size, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There probably wouldn't even be a fight. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I just think that it's a disgrace to boxing.
well, we got to play devil's advocate because people were saying, well, Ryan, you called out Jake Paul before too, so how would you say that? What do you have to say to the people that were saying that?
Well,
to you?
I'm way bigger than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is 5'4", and his last fight was at 133. My last fight was 147. I walk around 170. So, I mean, 170 to 190, whatever, however big is not too much difference. But you got Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, like, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight. Nobody was complaining when Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
Nobody was complaining when he's fighting Anthony Joshua. And I still think Jake Paul's a cool dude. But shit, he's called me out on my shit. I'm gonna call him out on his shit, bro. That's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like the Mike Tyson, low key was a disgrace, but we accepted it. But
Yeah.
he was 60 years old. I mean,
Right.
what the fuck we talking
he's
about
60.
here?
That's crazy.
Sean Porter views the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight as a sign of where boxing is going today. He says the new generation of fighters cares more about quick money than long-term greatness. In his eyes, Gervonta has joined those chasing paychecks instead of legacy fights. Porter remembers when legends used to risk everything for glory, fighting the best to make history. Now he feels most boxers focus on brand deals, fame, and short-term profits. He believes Tank is one of the most skilled fighters in the world, but is wasting his talent on show fights instead of real challenges. For Porter, this isn't just about Tank. It's about how money-driven fights are slowly taking away boxing's true spirit.
How you doing? How do you sort of see this scenario now for him?
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's presented to me. That's when I think about it, and I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential, and the kind of list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, so.
Many analysts believe the problem isn't just with the fighters, but also with the fans. They say today's audience feeds the drama, not the sport. Real skillful boxing matches often get ignored, while influencer and exhibition fights steal the spotlight. Social media's short attention span has turned boxing from a sport of skill into a show for clicks and views. According to experts, the rise of Jake Paul isn't only his doing, it's the fans who reward chaos over talent. When people watch mainly for trash talk and viral moments, real fighters lose motivation to take risks for respect. This trend has blurred the line between true competition and entertainment. Real boxers fight for titles, while influencers fight for attention, and as long as fans keep paying for it, the spotlight will stay on spectacle, not the sport itself.
Has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff, not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where he's kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names, I get it, blah, 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 but he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights. Like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights. And then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for sure shot, must win type of scenarios. That's why we're getting these fights that some people, purists and diehards, are calling wonky fights. You know what I mean? It is your fault.
Experts are worried about the huge size difference between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Jake is a natural cruiserweight, while Tank normally fights at lightweight. Analysts say that even though Gervonta is more skilled, size and power still matter in boxing. They warn that this fight could be unfair and even dangerous because Jake can handle punches from bigger fighters, while Tank would have to get close to land his shots against someone taller and stronger. Critics believe such mismatched fights shouldn't even be allowed in professional boxing. On paper, Jake has the advantage in size, and Tank has the edge in speed and skill, but the gap between them makes the fight controversial. For traditional boxing fans, it shows how the sport's rules are being bent just for entertainment. Showbiz. The adult talks about how Gervonta Davis's legacy has become fragile. He says Tank's career is often criticized for avoiding tough challenges, and fighting Jake Paul could hurt his reputation even more. Showbiz points out that Lamont Roach's recent performance against Pitbull Cruz, one of Tank's biggest past opponents, shows how strong the division really is. If Roach does better against Pitbull than Tank did, fans may start questioning Tank's dominance. He explains that boxing is all about perception. If someone beats your best win more easily, your greatness comes into doubt. That's why Showbiz believes Tank should focus on real challenges instead of chasing money fights. Facing Jake Paul might bring fame and cash, but it won't help his legacy. It could actually make people doubt his hunger for true greatness.
He's better than Tank. I don't even know how you cannot have him better than Tank. People question Tank's resume anyway. But if you make Tank take a knee and they don't call it a knockdown and you still get the draw, you beat him. You beat Tank. And then you dominate Pitbull, one of Tank's best wins. Bruh, you better than him. The resume, listen, bruh. I didn't say greater. I said better. The resume means politics. Ryan was just saying it. Lamont Roach could have been on a back burner and they were holding him back, so he had to go down to 130, doing the grunt work like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, waiting for his time to shine. Resume, if the business chooses you, they can move you along right. He actually get cherry picked and he best Tank, and then he stops Pitbull. He's better. Y'all know how the business of boxing works. You just saw Terrence Crawford actually be the best fighter we've seen in decades. The man, Terrence Crawford, can arguably be better than Floyd Mayweather. Y'all saw the business shitting for all of his career, practically all of his career. And you see that he's better than Nello? What a surprise! We've been sitting, a guy coming from lightweight can beat Nello at super middleweight?
Lamont Roach adds more fuel to the controversy by revealing what's happening behind the scenes. He says Gervonta Davis was supposed to take a rematch against a top contender, but instead chose to fight Jake Paul for a bigger payday. According to Roach, this shows that Tank's focus has shifted from proving himself to making easy money. He explains that real fighters honor their contracts and keep their word because that's what keeps boxing honest. Roach admits Tank is highly skilled and dangerous in the ring, but this choice makes people question his discipline. Many fans also feel disappointed, believing the rematch could have helped Tank silence critics and prove his true dominance.
If he did, even if this whole Jake situation was in the way, holler at me. Tell me you want to fight Jake. Tell me you got a bag coming up. All right, boom. Like,
Go do
it's a way to handle that. We have a contract. You cannot breach a contract and think shit just gonna be sweet. You can't. You can't do that.
Right.
We have a contract. So it's not like this wasn't supposed to happen or whatever the case may be. And he just went and took the Jake route. We had a signed contract to fight. So him breaching the contract is, if y'all put yourself in my shoes, you gotta think, I'm looking forward to fighting and getting paid. I'm looking forward to fighting and winning so I could be two-time world champ. Me. I'm in training for a fight to be a champion in another weight class and for me to be crowned champion twice in my career. And this just go ghost and then end up announcing another fight. Put yourself in my shoes.
Did you find out just like the rest of us did?
Kinda. I was on the fence because they didn't announce. They was like, all right, we're gonna announce. All right, we're gonna announce. All right, they're gonna announce every week. All right, we're gonna announce the fight. I'm like, all right, they on the bullshit.
Max Kellerman offers a fair view by acknowledging Jake Paul's influence in boxing's business side. He says no fighter today can sell tickets or create hype like Jake does. That's why so many professionals agree to fight him, not because they think he's more skilled, but because they can't match his popularity. Jake has become a marketing powerhouse, and even world champions want some of that spotlight. Kellerman and Paulie Malignaggi also discussed whether Gervonta Davis's knockout power will work against a much bigger opponent. They both agree that Tank's power is world-class, but still wonder if it will be enough to handle Jake's size advantage.
Legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists, though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist,
current champions.
If he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way
Paulie,
we did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know? The way they did when Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Okay, say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No,
and
because
Teddy
he
Atlas
fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at that time fought.
Teddy Atlas will 100% agree with this
with the expense of
Witherspoon. That were afraid of him.
With the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all, doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract issues with King at the time. Except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out.
Eddie Griffin ends the discussion with a sharp and skeptical take, saying Jake Paul's fights are more about entertainment than real competition. He calls them Hollywood fights, where the results seem guided to protect profits instead of true sportsmanship. Griffin points to Mike Tyson's exhibition match as an example, saying Tyson could have ended it easily but didn't, because that wasn't part of the plan. He believes the same thing could happen in the Tank fight, a show made for hype, not honesty. If Jake gets knocked out too fast, the excitement ends. If he lasts longer, the money grows. Griffin thinks both sides understand what's at stake financially, which makes the fight feel more like a performance than a real rivalry. Still, he admits fans will watch no matter what, proving that in today's boxing, controversy sells better than truth.
I ain't even gonna call it a fight, because it ain't. If Jake Paul's involved in it, it's a great acting job, You know Mike Tyson could have just knocked Jake Paul's face into the canvas, but he got paid to pull punches, otherwise he wouldn't have got paid. I'm pretty sure the same is going for Gervonta Davis. It's a quick money grab. Yeah, most of y'all gonna be suckers who tune in. It's this quick money grab. That's all I'm saying. Ain't gonna be no fight. I don't give a fuck how big Jake Paul is. He can't take one of them little mother tank punches. Yeah, tank move furniture. Move furniture. Catch that motherfucking move furniture. And Jake don't like his furniture move, so he gonna pay him not to hit him again. If you really want to show out Gervonta, sign a contract that you ain't gonna hit him, because if you hit him, you lose all the money. And then whoop that motherfucker's ass, put him to sleep, and get him out the boxing game once and for all. Let's go up again.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and stay informed. Stay tuned for more updates, and let's keep our news accurate.